So today we're going to talk about a way to remember how to use the subjunctive. And we need a set of main clauses in order to complete the whole idea of having the subjunctive. So we have the main clause, que, and the subordinate clause. So when do we use the subjunctive? When a person wants, suggests, or desires that someone else do something. There's nowhere else to write this, okay? This is just something you need to know. So again, it's a polite way to make a command, and you have to set a mood to do this. So you're trying to really schmooze somebody into doing something that they might not want to do. So you're making it a polite thing. So there are two parts to the subjunctive mood. There's the main clause, which is the present tense or an impersonal expression. We have que, and then we have the subordinate clause, which is dependent on the main clause. And that's the subjunctive. You'll never see the subordinate clause or the subjunctive walking down the street by itself. It's always going to be holding hands with the present tense or an impersonal expression. And that holding hands is the que. So when do we use the subjunctive? Well, here's an easy way to remember the words that will help set the mood. So Warsad. And war is sad, but Warsad. And we'll see what each one of these mean. This is part of the main clause. These are going to be in the present tense. So the W stands for wish. There's a place for you to write that, so please write it down. Wish. So here's the verbs that we would use to express a wish. Querer, desear, and preferir. A couple of these are boot verbs, so I even tell you which ones they changed to. So that means querer is to want, desear is to wish, and preferir is to prefer. We are going to go through a list of examples later, but let's get this down. The next letter is A. A is for advice. So here's some verbs that are related to giving advice. We have mandar, prohibir, aconsejar, and decir. Mandar means to command. Prohibir means to forbid. Aconsejar means to advise. And decir means to tell. So all these are related with advice. R is for request. So you're requesting something. So here's the verb related to that. Sugerir is to suggest. Exigir is to demand. Pedir is to ask for. Rogar is to beg. Like you're begging for something, okay? Like, oh, please give me a bite of your sandwich. But suplicar is to beg to God. Like, I beg that COVID passes our town, that we don't have it. Or I beg to God that I still have a job in a month. So you're begging, but it's to a higher level. It's to God. S is for show emotion. Okay, so these are related with emotion. Esperar, sentir, alegrarse de, and temer. Esperar is to hope. Sentir is to feel. Alegrarse is to be joyful of something. And temer is to fear. So these all show emotion. The next one's a stretch, okay? But I needed the A for a belief, okay? So when you're telling somebody a belief, so we can use pensar and creer. And we've seen both of these before. Pensar is to think or to plan. Like I think that I'm going to do that, or I plan to do that. Creer is to believe something. And the last one is the letter D for doubt and denial, or denial. So we have those two words, dudar and negar. Dudar means to doubt, and negar means to deny. So we also have impersonal expressions here. So you've seen these before, and you're welcome to write the definitions next to them. But we have es importante que, es raro que, es mejor que, es bueno que, es necesario que, es peligroso que, and there are many more, okay, but these are the ones I'm presenting. So we have es importante que, it's important that, es raro que, it's strange that, es mejor que, it's best that, es bueno que, it's good that, es necesario que, it's necessary that, es peligroso que, it's dangerous that. So where all the other ones were in the present tense, this does have the word es in the present tense. So we conjugate all the main clauses in the present tense. After that, we have the word que. Okay, so this is what's holding hands to the subjunctive. So the regular subjunctive, how to get it? Well, step one, you got to go to the yo form in the present tense and drop the O. We've already discussed this, okay? You got to check and make sure it isn't one of our special cases like a CAR, GAR, ZAR, GUIR, or a J. I think that's GER, okay? So if you look in your notes, you'll find examples of these. Step two, conjugate the verb with regular endings. Remember that you're in opposite world, and the AR verbs have E's in them, and the ER verbs have A's in them. So the subordinate endings, or subjunctive endings, AR verbs are es, hemos, en, and as, amos, and an. And these would have a que in front of them. You can't use these without the word que in front of them. Remember to always go to the yo form of the present tense and drop the O, and that'll catch any kind of boot verbs, it'll catch any kind of spell changes or anything like that. So here, let's talk about the special cases again. CAR changes to QU, GAR is GU, and ZAR is C. Now, those three we have seen. We've seen them in the preterite je form, and we've also seen them in the commands, in the negative commands. So GUIR changes to a G, and GER changes to a J. So we'll get some examples here. So we're going to have, for CAR, we'll have buscar. So that would be que yo, what would that be? Que yo, drop the CAR, plug in the QU, and what is our ending for an AR verb? Que yo busque. Let's take a second and look at these because obviously I have all the answers at the same time. So pagar, drop the GAR, plug in the GU. ZAR, let's drop that, plug in the C with the ending. All these are AR so far, so you know that they have E's in them. Okay, extinguir. So drop that GUIR and just plug in the G and the IR endings. And then proteger. Let's drop the GER and plug in the J. So que yo busque, que tú pagues, que él cruce, que tú extingas, que ella proteja. Just write down the ones that there's room to write down. Let's move on. Also part of the subjunctive are some boot verbs. Now, if it's just an AR or ER boot verb, they're just normal. They're just a normal boot verb. So, que yo quiera, que tú quieras, que él quiera, que nosotros queramos, que ellos quieran. See, it didn't change. These are just the same as they've always been, except they have, of course, the subjunctive endings. But we got to pay attention to the IR verbs because these are double-sided boot verbs, okay? So there's something special going to happen even in the nosotros form. So pedir is an E to I boot verb. So que yo pida, que tú pidas, que él pida, que nosotros pidamos, que ellos pidan. On a normal one, it doesn't change. It doesn't change in the we form. But on the double-sided boot verb, we do have that. So we do have a couple of different kinds of stem changes. Like we have E to IE, which in the we form we change to an I, like sentir, en sugerir, en negar, en pensar. So these are vocabulary words of ours. We know these words. So we'd say que yo sienta or que nosotros sintamos. Que yo sugiera, que nosotros sugiramos. So there's another kind. There's O to UE, and it changes to a U. So we have dormir, and we have rogar. So que yo duerma, or que nosotros durmamos. Que yo ruegue, or que nosotros roguemos. Ruguemos. Okay. And then, that's a GAR verb. Sorry, that doesn't have a double-sided. Roguemos, that's right. And then the last one is E to I, and we have pedir, like we just saw, and vestirse. Okay, so let's keep going. So at the bottom of your paper, I want you to make sure you write yourself a note that all double-sided boot verbs are IR ending verbs. None of the AR or ER verbs are going to have that change.